Happening now, courting a spy. An accused Russian operative charged with infiltrating the GOP and the NRA now appears set to strike a plea deal. Will Maria Butina cooperate with prosecutors in the Russia investigation? Russian interaction. We're tracking the growing list of key figures from Trump world whose contacts with Russians have been revealed. Tonight, the number is 16 and counting as Mueller prepares to drop more bombshells. Felonies and lies. Federal prosecutors now have implicated the president in 2 crimes, and they're digging deeper tonight, focusing in on Mr. Trump's business and his family. What will they uncover? And not if. A top contender to replace John Kelly as White House Chief of Staff just says no. And now Mr. Trump is said to be furious about how this is all playing out. We're going to tell you what we're learning and who he's blaming. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're following breaking news on President Trump's search for a new White House Chief of Staff. Multiple sources now telling CNN that Mr. Trump is angry and feels humiliated after he was turned down by the Vice President's Chief of Staff, Nick Ayers. This, as an apparent plea deal by an accused Russian spy, may also be raising Mr. Trump's blood pressure. It's possible, but not yet clear, if Maria Butina has agreed to cooperate with federal prosecutors or if she could advance the Russia investigation. But there's no doubt that the legal pressure on the president and his inner circle is ratcheting higher as the gravity of Robert Mueller's newest revelations sinks in. By CNN's count, contacts between Russia and at least 16 close Trump associates now have been exposed. This hour, I'll talk about that and more with Senate Judiciary Committee member Chris Coons. And our correspondents and analysts are also standing by. First, let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. Jim, the president's plans to replace John Kelly as Chief of Staff, they've now blown up in his face.
They've blown up and he's furious about it. Well, President Trump stayed behind closed doors for much of the day, venting his frustrations about the Russia investigation and scrambling to find a new chief of staff after announcing John Kelly will be leaving that post before he even settled in on a replacement. A source close to the president says he is, quote, super pissed that one contender for the job, the vice president's chief of staff, Nick Ayers, suddenly pulled himself out of the running without the president having a plan B.
President Trump is trying to convince the world where there is smoke, there is no fire. The president is downplaying the latest revelations in the Russia investigation, mocking any notion of collusion with Moscow, while declaring his innocence in the payments made by his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to women alleging affairs with Mr. Trump. The president misspelled the word smoking and tweeted, "Democrats can't find a smocking gun, no collusion." That's because there was no collusion. So now the Dems go to a simple private transaction, wrongly call it a campaign contribution, which it was not. Cohen just trying to get his sentence reduced. Democrats insist those payments may well be campaign finance crimes and potential grounds for impeachment.
Well, they would be impeachable offenses. Whether they are important enough to justify an impeachment is a different question, but certainly they'd be impeachable offenses.
If not impeachment, other Democrats say perhaps prosecution.
My takeaway is there's a very real prospect that on the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him, that he may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
The president is sticking to his talking points.
On the Mueller situation, we're very happy with what we are reading because there was no collusion whatsoever. There never has been. The last thing I want is help from Russia on a campaign.
As he denies collusion, the president is trying to clear up the confusion inside the West Wing after announcing the departure of his chief of staff, John Kelly, while teasing he was on the verge of tapping a replacement.
We'll be announcing who will be taking John's place. It might be on an interim basis. I'll be announcing that over the next day or two, but John will be leaving at the end of the year.
The problem, the young, ambitious staffer initially eyed for the job, the vice president's chief of staff, Nick Ayers, said no thanks and revealed he's leaving the White House, forcing the president to start scrambling. But sources tell CNN other top administration officials aren't interested in the post, as in Budget Director Mick Mulvaney and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. GOP Congressman Mark Meadows has indicated he might take the job, and U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer is also under consideration.
I'm also worried about General Kelly leaving the White House. I imagine that he was one of the people that was attempting to convince the president not to fire Mueller.
Now, earlier today, the president tried to compare himself to former President Barack Obama when it comes to these allegations about campaign finance improprieties. Let's put this up on screen. We can show you this tweet from earlier today. The president saying earlier today that his case is just like Obama's. One thing we should point out, Wolf, the president tried to compare his payment to the porn star Stormy Daniels to this fine that former President Obama had to pay after the 2008 campaign. But that is hardly an appropriate comparison, as Obama was fined by the Federal Election Commission for not reporting some of his donors. Wolf, as we know, in President Trump's case, his former attorney, Michael Cohen, has pleaded guilty of crime, saying that the president ordered him to do this, that he acted at Mr. Trump's direction. So those are two very different things, two completely different things. And getting back to the chief of staff hunt over here at the White House, one name that we're hearing brought up is the former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. We're not exactly sure whether or not Christie is interested in that job. He is one of the names being mentioned at this point, but the president, as we were reporting at the top of all of this, is very angry, very upset. He has to start this process all over again after Nick Ayers pulled himself out of the running. It now appears to be a wide open selection process for a very important job here in Washington.
Yeah, I'm sure the president isn't happy about that. Very frustrated indeed. Jim Acosta at the White House, thank you very much. And now to the Russia investigation and the growing list of key figures in Trump world who have had contacts with the Russians. By CNN's count, at least 16 Trump associates, including his son, daughter, and son-in-law, had interactions with Russians during the 2016 presidential campaign or during the transition. Our senior national correspondent, Alex Marquardt, is here. He's working the story for us. Alex, after the stunning filings by federal prosecutors on Monday, investigators are keeping a very sharp focus, I take it, on the president, his associates, including his family.
Yeah, Wolf, this long and growing list includes some of the most important people around the president. And the contacts that they had with the Russians did come in different ways. Face-to-face meetings, text messages, phone calls, emails. The people on this list, 16 of them, all deny any collusion with Russia. But now, thanks to recent court filings by Robert Mueller's team, we do have new details about what some of these key figures are said to have done and what Robert Mueller is zeroing in on. They are among the biggest names in the Trump orbit. The children, the campaign chairman, the former attorney general. 16 people associated with Donald Trump who had contact with Russians during the campaign and in the White House. Among the key contacts, Donald Jr. set up a meeting with a Russian lawyer in Trump Tower.
We have Russia.
Fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn called the Russian ambassador to discuss sanctions. And former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort lied about his contacts with a Russian connected to the intelligence services. In the months after the election, Trump and senior officials repeatedly denied any contacts took place.
There was no collusion between us and Russia. I watched the news this morning.
But tonight, there's renewed focus on the Trump team's dealings with Moscow after the special counsel's office told a court that it sees significance in Michael Cohen negotiating to build a Trump Tower in Russia while the Kremlin was meddling in the U.S. election. Mueller's team alleging the Trump organization's project in Russia, worth hundreds of millions of dollars and continued as Trump ran for president, was a lucrative business opportunity that sought and likely required the assistance of the Russian government. Meanwhile, ahead of Paul Manafort's sentencing, the special counsel's office revealed that Manafort continued to reach out to the Trump administration after he was indicted and struck a plea deal, and then lied about it. Why he tried to contact them is unclear. And Manafort claims he has told Mueller's team only the truth since striking that plea deal. Today, we learned that he has waived his right to be there in person at a hearing in court tomorrow about the breach of that plea deal. Whether he lied to the special counsel, he could face new charges for those alleged lies or be subject, Wolf, to a harsher sentence.
And potentially. He's facing many years in prison. He's almost 70 years old right now. All right, Alex, good report. Thank you very much. Joining us now, Senator Chris Coons. He's a Democrat. He serves on both the Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committees. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. Let's get right to a key question. Do you believe President Trump has committed impeachable offenses?
Well, Wolf, I can't reach that conclusion yet, but certainly the most recent filings by Robert Mueller and other recent court filings strongly suggest that there were campaign finance violations committed by Michael Cohen at President Trump's direction, and that those are violations that may well lead to criminal charges. Whether or not that's an impeachable offense is something where I, as a member of the Senate, would ultimately be sitting as literally a member of the jury. So I think that's a question we don't need to reach yet. But this certainly puts the president at much more focused legal jeopardy. And the recent filings by Mueller's team, both against Paul Manafort and against Michael Cohen, and some other things you teased at the top of the hour here about Maria Butina, strongly suggest that the legal risks for President Trump and his inner circle have escalated in recent days.
The incoming chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, says the political calculation on impeachment is a different question as opposed to criminal charges. How do you think Democrats should proceed, first of all, in the House of Representatives, which would have to take up impeachment first?
I think the new Democratic majority in the House of Representatives in January ought to be focusing and dedicating their time to proposing legislation that would actually solve the problems facing average Americans. Rising health care costs, an opioid crisis, a need for stronger skills and better jobs through an infrastructure package. Take up and pass those bills, send them over to us in the Senate, and challenge President Trump and the Senate Republican majority to work across the aisle and to address the problems facing working families. I do think, however, that on the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Nadler and his members will have a fair amount of work to do to improve the transparency of this administration and to make sure that the issues that are being raised by the Mueller investigation are pursued all the way to their logical conclusion, and to protect that investigation from undue interference, either by President Trump directly or by the leadership of the Justice Department.
Do you agree with Congressman Adam Schiff, who's going to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, that President Trump could be indicted and possibly face jail time after he leaves office?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. Why?
Well, the charges, the issues outlined against both Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort, I think, continue to sharpen the ways in which it's clear that the Mueller investigation has produced a whole series of actions not previously exposed to the public. Michael Cohen's the evidence that's been presented in the Michael Cohen case that the president directed him to engage in payments that were intended to influence the outcome of the election really sharpens the president's legal risk here. And I agree with Congressman Schiff that that might well form the basis for an indictment after the president leaves office.
The Mueller filings that were released on Friday also revealed that Paul Manafort, the former Trump campaign chairman, was in direct touch with the Trump White House this year and lied about it. What concerns does that raise in your mind?
Well, I've got concerns about witness tampering and about interference in the ongoing Mueller investigation, both directly and indirectly, by the president and some of the folks in his senior leadership team. And the Manafort filings lend some credence to those concerns.
William Barr, the president's nominee to be the next attorney general, he certainly, if confirmed, would be overseeing this entire Mueller investigation. You've expressed some concern about his views on executive power and the Mueller investigation. What will you be looking for during his confirmation hearings?
Well, this is exactly why confirmation hearings by the Senate Judiciary Committee are critical. It gives us an opportunity to get the nominee on the record in terms of whether he will protect the Mueller investigation and whether he has views about executive power that are outside the mainstream. As you know, Wolf, that's something I really focused on in now Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation hearings. And I think it's important that the American people understand the risk to our constitutional order posed by extreme views of executive power that would give this president and future presidents the ability to fire at will all sorts of significant administration figures. You
serve on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. Do you have any timeline for this confirmation process, when it will begin, when the hearings will begin before your committee?
Not yet. We haven't heard exactly when the president intends to submit the nomination to the committee and the Senate and when we would take it up. But I would hope as soon as possible. Acting Attorney General Whitaker should not be in the position he's in. It didn't follow the succession statute. It didn't follow DOJ procedures. And I do think now that there is a nominee, we should move as expeditiously as possible to take up the nomination of William Barr to serve as the next Attorney General.
Senator Coons, as usual, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
All right, we're going to have a lot more on the breaking news right after this.
The unmistakable Cadillac XT4. Once again, driving is joyful. Starting under $36,000.
Outback is making your holidays even better. For a limited time, get a 4-course meal starting at $15.99. Treat yourself to the perfect gift today because the Aussie 4-course won't last long. And now get a $10 gift with every $50 in gift cards.
A Massage Envy gift card unwraps all the benefits of total body care. Share the gift of wellness and help everybody on your list be their very best. Receive a voucher for 2 free enhancements when you purchase $100 in Massage Envy gift cards. Massage Envy membership, making the best of every body.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
Welcome to BritBox, the biggest streaming collection of British telly ever. Enjoy loved classics from the BBC and ITV and discover exclusive new shows fresh from the UK. And with a BritBox annual gift subscription, a year of joy comes with 2 months free. It's the Brits that keep on giving. This holiday, indulge in some great British telly. Give the gift of BritBox today at BritBox.com.
I got beaten within an inch of my life because I was different.
It's a hate crime.
So I created a world where I can be anyone I want. This is Hoagie. Kind of a braver version of me. We're one and the same, pal. I walk in your shoes.
You need to face those jerks who beat you up.
I'm not really sure how to do this. If I can be a hero, so can you.
Welcome to Marwen, rated PG-13.
It's all in my notebook, but okay. Over and over again. Ready? Something a little less flaky.
Your insurance rates skyrocket after a scratch so small you could fix it with a pen. How about using that pen to sign up for new insurance instead?
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-888-592-3456 for a free quote today. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better. With amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy one room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy one room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy one room and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. Closed captioning brought to you by Farberware Neat Nest. Stacked and intact.
Neat Nest by Farberware. Ingenious space-saving design, all designed to stack and protect the lids and the pan surface. Farberware Neat Nest, stacked and intact.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We have some significant breaking news coming into the Situation Room right now. An accused Russian spy Maria Butina reaching a plea deal with federal prosecutors. Our political correspondent Sarah Murray has been following this story for us. Sarah, what are you learning about this cooperation agreement?
Well, Wolf, they have reached a deal, and of course it's not official until it's entered and agreed to in court and by the judge. But what we know is that she's already begun cooperating with federal investigators. That cooperation is likely to last, and we are expected to learn much more when she appears in court on Wednesday.
Russia.
Prosecutors once accused Maria Butina of being a Russian spy who cozied up to the National Rifle Association. Now they appear ready to strike a plea deal. Today, Butina's attorneys and prosecutors requested a change of plea hearing in D.C. federal court, noting that the parties have resolved this matter. The filing indicates Butina is likely to plead guilty to at least one of the charges she's facing: conspiracy and acting as a foreign agent. It's unclear whether Butina will agree to cooperate with other federal investigations as part of a deal, including the South Dakota fraud investigation into her boyfriend, GOP political operative Paul Erickson.
A few of the lessons.
Until now, 30-year-old Butina has maintained her innocence.
All over Russia.
Prosecutors accused Butina of ingratiating herself with American political entities to try to advance Russian interests. But her lawyer insisted she was a bright American University graduate student who simply embraced her roots, even sporting a Vladimir Putin phone case.
It's a picture of Vladimir Putin shirtless on the horse. So you can imagine, which she had as a gag.
But Butina became a regular at exclusive NRA events, snapped pics with GOP presidential hopefuls as 2016 heated up, and posed a question to then-candidate Donald Trump about Russian sanctions at a political event.
I'm visiting from Russia, so my question...
She earned a telling response.
I believe I would get along very nicely with Putin, okay? And I mean where we have the strength. I don't think you'd need the sanctions. I think that we would get along very, very well.
The Justice Department charged Butina back in July amid a flurry of U.S.-Russia news. She was arrested days after the Justice Department indicted Russian military intelligence officers for hacking the Democratic Party. And her case became public the day President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki and declined to admit Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Butina's case created its own furor, in part because of prosecutors' salacious allegations that she tried to trade sex for access. Prosecutors later admitted that was an error, and they misunderstood text messages they were relying on as evidence of her sexual overture. But the honeypot stereotype inspired her attorney to release a video of Butina and her boyfriend Erickson performing a Disney love song. Now, once again, we are now learning that Maria Butina is cooperating with prosecutors. This is part of her plea deal. Again, she is going to be in court on Wednesday. We will learn more there. Wolf.
Federal court. What do you think she has that's so enticing to federal prosecutors to give her some sort of deal? What kind of information?
Well, this is interesting because remember, this is separate from the special counsel's Russia investigation. This was a case that was brought in D.C. And so there are a couple of things she could provide information on. One, of course, is her boyfriend, who we noted is facing these fraud charges in South Dakota. He's also under scrutiny by investigators here for his role in this sort of alleged plot. But the other thing we could learn about are her contacts with her Russian handlers. We know that she was operating here in the U.S. at sort of the direction of this man, Alexander Torshin. He's a Kremlin-linked banker who's currently been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury. So she may be able to give prosecutors a little bit more insight about the circumstances in which she came to the U.S., how she kept in contact with her handlers here, and what they were interested in getting from her. And again, we'll look toward that hearing on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll watch it closely. Thanks very much, Sarah. Good reporting. We're going to continue to watch all the breaking news right now. Joining us, our senior legal analyst, the former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. Preet, how significant is Maria Butina's cooperation?
Well, I think it's pretty significant. The fact of it is significant. You don't usually get Russian spies who cooperate with authorities in the United States. When I was U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, we brought a number of cases alleging that there were Russian spies in our midst. Most famously, in 2010, there was the case of the 10 Russian illegals who were living as ordinary Americans or pretending to live as ordinary Americans in various parts of the country. And what happened there was, at the end of the day, they ended up pleading guilty and then immediately getting on a plane and being shipped to Europe, where on a tarmac in dramatic fashion, they were exchanged for spies that were in the custody of Russia. So usually it's the case that spies do their dirty work, they leave, they go back to the home country, or if they're charged, there's some other disposition. It is very unusual and significant for someone like this to cooperate and give us, and by us I mean American law enforcement authorities, their side of the story and discussions about contacts with handlers, as was mentioned on the report that preceded this. So I think it's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's, if she's an alleged Russian spy, and I think it's pretty extraordinary that an alleged Russian spy accused of, in effect, espionage here in the United States would, in fact, plead guilty, cooperate with federal prosecutors. This doesn't happen very often, does it?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think. The case I mentioned from 8 years ago was the most significant one. We charged other spies, Russian and from other countries as well, in China over the course of my time as U.S. Attorney. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but I cannot remember a time when you had someone like this cooperating in the way that the reporting suggests that she intends to.
The fact that she's cooperating right now, how do you think U.S. prosecutors, the U.S. Attorney here in Washington, D.C., convinced her and her lawyers to, you know what, you better cooperate?
I mean, the typical way you convince people is you explain to them the costs and the benefits. And so if people think they're going to be in prison for a long time, it's usually a case of, saving your own skin. And maybe they put forward an opportunity for her to get out of jail at an earlier time. And maybe the prospect of a long prison sentence is not something that was interesting to somebody who's young and 30 years old and has a whole life ahead of her. I think what's also interesting here is, this case, like the Michael Cohen case initially, was something that was looked at by the special prosecutor, and my understanding was then parceled out to a particular U.S. attorney. In the Michael Cohen case, to the Southern District, my old office, and in the Maria Butina case, to the U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia, which might lead you to believe that maybe her cooperation is not so significant to the special counsel investigation because, frankly, the case was given up. But as we saw in the Michael Cohen case, once he decided to cooperate, he not only cooperated with or attempted to cooperate, not beautifully as we saw from the papers last week, but attempted to cooperate with the Southern District folks. He also made arrangements to cooperate with, give information to Special Counsel Mueller, even though Mueller had given up that case to the Southern District. So here, it's not only interesting with respect to what the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office might be interested in with respect to this spy, alleged spy, but also what she can come back to the special counsel and say about the election and all sorts of other things that are in the core of what the special counsel cares about.
It's interesting that she was arrested just days before she was scheduled to leave the United States to head back to Russia. Are you surprised the Russians let her stay here this long?
Russians make mistakes. One of the reasons why we've been able to charge spies in the past is they get a little bit arrogant and they think that their spycraft has not been detected. In the case of the Russian illegals case that I mentioned now a couple of times from 8 years ago, those folks were under surveillance for years before they understood that they were. And so maybe a mistake was made and she should have been brought back earlier. That happens, and it's fortuitous for us when it does.
Well, clearly, the U.S., I suspect, had information she was getting ready to leave, so they decided to go ahead with the arrest before she got on a plane to head over to Moscow. But the whole issue of collusion, very quickly, Preet, before I let you go, Russian intelligence, Maria Butina, NRA, Trump associates, is there evidence of collusion potentially here?
Yeah, there could be. It depends on what she has to say. I mean, one of the reasons why you and I are having this discussion about how extraordinary it is to have someone like Maria Butina cooperate is that usually, and at least so far in the case that we've been talking about for a year and a half up to date, is that you have information from the American side. And, the special counsel has been looking for testimony from people on the American side who would say, we have these contacts, here are the people that we talk to, here are the intercepts that maybe the intel agencies have. Now you have someone who's on the Russian side who can give a lot more information and a lot more credibly about the ways in which the Russians attempted to interfere with and influence the election, which is one thing, and then separately, as you ask and point out, on the issue of collusion. So again, it depends on what she has to say. but it's looking more ominous with respect to that prong of the investigation. Yes.
Yeah, I've been told for weeks now, watch Maria Butina. Potentially, this could be a real bombshell. We'll see what happens on Wednesday and the days that follow. Preet, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf. Sure.
All right, just ahead, Phil Mudd and Jeffrey Toobin, they're both standing by to weigh in on the accused Russian spy Maria Butina and her cooperation with investigators. And since the new revelations from Robert Mueller have emerged, Democrats are using the I word more and more. But could potential efforts to impeach the president actually backfire?
Don't get mad. Get E-Trade, dog.
I can't believe you got me a tennis bracelet.
Mm-hmm. She can thank me for that. I showed my dad this deal at Hellsberg. He bought jewelry, and I got this. It's my finder's fee.
Get a free Nintendo Switch system when you buy a gift at Hellsberg Diamonds.
My mom works for Chevy. My dad works for Chevy.
We're all part of the Chevy family.
And right now, so are you.
Because our Chevy employee discount is now available to everyone.
Even you.
The Chevy price you pay is what we pay, and not a cent more.
Welcome to the family. The Chevy family.
Use your employee discount for everyone to get over $6,000 below MSRP on this Equinox when you finance with GM Financial. Get the Chevy employee discount for everyone today.
The best part about being a bath fitter installer is the reveal. Homeowners greet us in the morning and love that we're going to install a beautiful new tub right over their old one without tearing the bathroom apart. But they're never quite prepared for what they get come the end of the day. We call it the wow moment. When they see their new bathtub that's high quality and more beautiful than they could have imagined, I can't help but smile. Since it's Bath Fitter, it's built to last a lifetime. We guarantee it.
Book your free in-home consultation today. Call or visit bathfitter.com.
This holiday season, find great gifts for the musician in your life. Get a Squier Telecaster, perfect for beginners, just $129.99. Or get a Mitchell Acoustic Electric Ukulele, just $79.99. Give the gift of music from Guitar Center.
Our old TV provider decided to stop providing our school's games.
So I bought this bad boy. Road trips every Saturday.
But that Dish guy said switch to Dish. You get every major D1 football game right here at home.
Stay home and get every major D1 game with Dish.
Hey, Jen, which tie says trustworthy but also fun?
Gold down, oil up. Oil down, gold up.
This is too busy. We need to make sure people can actually use this stuff.
Which one says hours of free live streaming coverage without cable or subscription fees?
Aluminum. Aluminum.
You ready, Zach?
Well, we're ready.
Welcome to the show. Let's make finance make sense.
Step into the holiday season with confidence. Lift up your spirits and unwrap a new you with the Bowflex Holiday Sale. Happening for a limited time right now. Enjoy our best deals of the year on the Bowflex Tread Climber, the new Bowflex Lateral X, our Select Tech dumbbells, and the all-new Bowflex Max Trainer that adapts to you with customized workouts. Find your fit this holiday and save big with our Bowflex Holiday Sale. Going on now at bowflex.com.
I always felt that my comedy was just to make things be all right.
It's the story of my life.
There are so many toothpastes out there. Which one should I use?
Choose one that takes care of your gums and enamel.
Crest Gum and Enamel Repair cleans below the gum line and helps repair weakened enamel. Gum and Enamel Repair from Crest.
Breathe freely fast with Vicks Sinex.
My congestion's gone.
I can breathe again! I can breathe again! Oh.
Vicks Sinex. Breathe on.
The job boards I used to use delivered tons of the wrong resumes. Those sites were, well, not smart. Then there's Smart. ZipRecruiter helps me find people with the right skills, education, and experience for my job, then actively invites them to apply. So I get qualified candidates fast. No wonder ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/reach.
Following breaking news, CNN has learned that the accused Russian spy Maria Butina has started cooperating with federal prosecutors after agreeing to a plea deal in recent days. This development unfolding right now as Robert Mueller's investigation zeroes in on connections between Russians and the Trump team. Let's bring in our analyst and Jeffrey Toobin. According to this agreement, we have part of it. Maria Butina, quote, has agreed and conspired with a Russian government official, and at least one other person for Butina to act in the United States under the direction of Russian official without prior notification to the Attorney General. How significant is this?
Potentially very significant, because it is yet another example of Russians trying to influence the American political system. And the question, of course, is, who did she influence? How did she influence? Was there any connection to the Trump campaign? We know that she asked a significant question at a Trump news conference. Was that set up in advance? Did the candidate Trump know to call on her? Why, out of all the times he spoke in public, that was the first time he talked about his desire to ease off sanctions and get along well with Vladimir Putin? That could all be yet another coincidence, but it is certainly something prosecutors are going to want to look into.
Because there's been a long-time suspicion she was a plant. She came in there. They knew she was going to ask that. He was ready to offer that answer.
Let's find that out. Yeah. And as always, the important question will be, does she have corroboration of the story she tells to prosecutors, emails, phone calls, the like?
You know, it just shows you how sophisticated the Russians were in all of this and in how they worked the system, inviting members from the NRA to Moscow on a couple of occasions, treating them really well. And, you know, she may be a plant here. And who else were they doing this with? I mean, we know that the NRA gave the Trump campaign, what, $30 million? They were really important backers of Donald Trump. And, you know, it shows that not only were the Russians hacking in one way, but in another way, they were influence peddling with organizations who wanted money from them. And we'll have to see what she says.
Bill, you used to work at the CIA. How rare is it for a Russian national, especially a Russian national accused of being a Russian spy, to all of a sudden decide to plead guilty and cooperate with federal authorities?
I want to see what she's cooperating on. This isn't going to happen that often, but I want to see if she's coming clean or if she's going to pull a Paul Manafort. I'm cooperating, but actually I'm not cooperating at all. If she is, give me a pepperoni pizza and some Diet Cokes, because this is what people like me live for. Number one, I want to know tradecraft. How does she operate? How was she, for example, interacting with other Russians here to determine whether we see that tradecraft with others? Does she know of other Russians who are doing the same things? Let me give you another couple targets. Who was she told to go up against and why? Was it only the NRA or was it others? So when you look at these things, how the Russians operated, who she was targeting, whether she knows there are other people working for the Russians, I mean, if she wants to sit down and talk, that is a lot of pizzas because she's going to have a lot of information.
Damn, sounds like a movie. Great.
Could be a movie. It's pretty dramatic, especially if she decides, I don't know if she will, to defect and stay in the United States and give up her whole Russian connection.
Sure. If she decides to do that, there's a whole load of other stuff I want to go after if I'm looking at her. For example, I want your phone, I want your laptop, I want every password you ever have. Because even if she doesn't know something substantial, and I think that's doubtful, she knows, or at least she's got information on how she communicated back home. Let me give you a real basic. How'd she get paid? Who arranged for her travel back to Moscow? She's a gold mine of information about how the Russians operate in what we call out-of-embassy operations in the United States.
David, how significant do you think this is all going to be?
I think it's significant, Wolf. I don't think it tells us as much today about what connections were made with the Trump campaign or Trump circle. It was reported several months ago that she tried to set up a back-channel meeting with Donald Trump Jr., but that wasn't successful. It tells us more, though, to Jeffrey's point, I think, about what the Russians were trying to do to find soft spots in the American political system and see if they could influence it. Even if President Trump had no idea she was at that press availability in summer of 2015, she was there, got called on, asked a question that prompted him to give that answer, which was very solicitous of President Putin, and started him off talking about this idea that we should just get along with Russia and what's all the fuss about.
You mentioned the clip. We have the clip, Jeffrey. This is July 2015, very early in the campaign. All of a sudden, this young woman, a graduate student at American University here in Washington, asks a very significant question, and for the first time, Donald Trump is speaking about Putin.
I'm visiting from Russia, so my question...
Putin. Good friend of Obama, Putin.
He
likes Obama a lot. Go ahead.
My question will be about foreign politics.
Okay.
If you would be elected as a president, what will be your foreign politics, especially in the relationships with my country? And do you want to continue the politics of sanctions that are damaging of both economy, or you have any other ideas?
Okay. Obama gets along with nobody. The whole world hates us.
And then he goes on to say...
Well, actually, I mean, the question, and then later he says he wants to ease up on sanctions.
Right. And he wants to have good relations with Putin and thinks he will have good relations.
But remember what's going on at that point. He's trying to build Trump Tower Moscow. So, you know, was he trying to get along with Russia because he thought that was in the interest of American foreign policy? Or was he trying to get along with Russia because he was trying to make money building a tower? That's the key question about all of his relations.
Well, because all of his answers were like, Obama really likes Putin. Putin wouldn't like me, you know. And then he goes on to say that sanctions, you know, that he would ease up on sanctions. I mean, he was all over the place on this because he knew he was lying. I mean, and he had to know that he was telling the American public that he had nothing to do with Russia, when in fact he had everything to do with Russia.
Exactly. Just a quick point, Wolf, since you played that part where the president said, essentially, or the then candidate said that Obama didn't get along with Putin. President Obama, if he didn't get along with Putin at that point, was because of the sanctions. In 2014, President Obama got the European heads of state, Canada, et cetera, to implement sanctions on Europe because of their invasion of Crimea. It's not like he didn't get along with Putin just because they didn't like each other.
You know, it's interesting, because usually when a Russian spy, alleged spy, is arrested in the United States, they go ahead in Russia and do something similar. They arrest an American over there, so they potentially could have some sort of swap or trade, and you're familiar with that.
I am, and I suspect she's going to go home soon. I mean, if she gets charged and gets convicted, I don't think she's going to spend her life in jail in the United States. By the way, one quick comment on that question. Let me take you inside my game. I feel like I'm about ready to salivate here. I don't care about the question she asked of President Trump. I want to know who told you to ask that question. How did you communicate with them? How did you communicate with them afterwards? Let me go real technical. Who paid you for that? How was that method of payment managed? I want to know how they are operating in the United States. People in the political realm want to know what her goal is in that question. I want to know the action. How are you getting paid? How are you communicating? It's fascinating for people like me.
Those are great, fascinating, not just for people like you.
Let's go, man.
For all of us.
For people like me,
want to know
too.
that.
You're writing the screenplay?
Yes,
yeah,
right. Ready.
Exactly. Jeffrey, you're a former federal prosecutor. She's being prosecuted not by Robert Mueller, the special counsel, and his team, but by the U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C.
Well, that does suggest that she doesn't have information that is relevant to the Mueller investigation. But as we learned from the whole Michael Cohen situation, just because you plead guilty in one office, as Cohen did in the Southern District, doesn't mean you don't have dealings with Mueller as well. So if she has anything to say about the president and about his connections, you can be sure that that information will get to Mueller.
It certainly will be. Everybody stick around. Much more on the breaking news right after this.
This holiday season, families near you need your help. Visit redcross.org now to donate.
Grubhub is a delivery app that lets you order any food your heart and stomach desire. So you can order this, or maybe a little bit of this. Order from over 85,000 restaurants nationwide. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents under the tree.
Right now, all over the country, kids at Shriners Hospitals for Children are able to go home and be with their families for the holidays. And it's only possible because of the monthly support of people just like you.
When you call the number on your screen today and just give $19 a month, you'll be helping countless children get the care they need to go home for Christmas.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of the care you'll be providing so kids can be with their families.
Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams.
It only takes a moment to call the number on your screen, or you can visit loveshriners.org right now on your phone or computer to help other kids just like these be with their families this Christmas.
Because every child just wants to be home for the holidays, and your gift makes that possible.
Your call is the best gift of all.
Your gift will be my favorite Christmas present this year. Thank you for giving.
Please call the number on your screen or go online right now with your monthly gift. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org to give whatever you can.
At the Joseph A. Bank Super Tuesday sale, save up to 70% off everything. Sport coats and blazers, $149. All Traveler washable merino sweaters, $39. Plus take an extra 60% off clearance. From stitch to store, that's the Bank way.
Becca, smile. Are you kidding me?
You need iExpand, the easy way to move photos and videos off your phone and free up space. Save at iExpand.com.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah, it's like CNN gone wild.
TMI, too much.
Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Smith. Like most Americans, I knew that one of the best ways to grow wealth was by investing in the stock market. And I've spent the past 20 years perfecting a system that helps ordinary people achieve extraordinary results. Today, my system is trusted by over 25,000 investors to track over $20 billion of their own investments. The stock market's complicated, but successful investing isn't. Most people make it way harder and more emotional than it needs to be. TradeStop simplifies successful investing. We give you the tools to optimize your portfolio so you can make more money and take less risk. Simply go to trytradestops.com to start your 30-day free trial with absolutely no obligation. Successful investing is just a click away. Go to trytradestops.com now.
CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, tonight at 10 Eastern.
The breaking news, CNN has learned that the accused Russian spy Maria Butina will plead guilty in federal court and has already begun cooperating with federal prosecutors. We're tracking significant developments at the same time in the special counsel's Russia probe. Our experts are back with us. Phil, Maria Butina pleading guilty and cooperating. It comes as we've now learned that at least 16 Trump associates were in contact at one point or another with Russians during the campaign and during the transition.
So look, let's put two pieces together. Regardless of whether she knows anything about the Trump campaign and the contacts between Trump campaign officials and Russians, she can offer a perspective on how the Russians work. We call that OD, what's the operational directive to the Russian intelligence service here? How do you want to interact with the Trump team and with people in political circles? So she will go in and say, this is how they told me to approach them. These are the people that they wanted me to approach. She can offer some color commentary to the Mueller team, even if she doesn't know the specifics about what was going on among people involved in the Mueller investigation.
Of those 16 individuals, Trump associates who were in contact with Russians, apparently none of them ever alerted the FBI that the Russians were talking to them about various aspects.
And it's a hell of a coincidence that they were all trying to influence the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign was extremely receptive. The Trump campaign was very solicitous of Vladimir Putin, of Russian interests, of the invasion of Ukraine. That is circumstantial evidence that there was a relationship between the Trump campaign and Russia, a collusion, conspiracy. Has it been proven 100%? Absolutely not. But when you have 16 people reaching out and making contact, it's just a hell of a coincidence.
Right. It can't be. It's too many. It can't be a coincidence.
That number could grow, by the way.
And by the way, you know, as you said, nobody reported it, which is kind of astonishing. And people lied about it because they knew it was wrong. They knew they shouldn't have done it. They didn't go to the counsel of the campaign and say, wait, should I have this meeting? Which is what someone would normally do. And a general counsel of a campaign would say, no, don't go near it.
I'm not used to quoting that noted legal authority, Steve Bannon, but remember what he said about the Trump Tower meeting in June. He said it was illegal. Why didn't they call the FBI?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if he knew, someone else should have known.
Right, and it doesn't mean Trump knew. I mean, this is, you know, this was going on all around him.
Doesn't mean he didn't.
It doesn't mean he didn't,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, just to underscore your point, Gloria, both ways. It doesn't prove that the president knew what was going on, but it's not like 16 people were contacted and 4 of them reported it to the FBI.
Right.
So far, we've heard of none that reported this or, you know, pushed back on it in a significant way. We might find that out later, but so far that hasn't been.
You think the president should be concerned that Maria Butina is now going to cooperate?
I don't think he should. I think he should be concerned. If I were ranking the Mueller situation versus what she's doing, Mueller gets about a 98. She gets about a 2. I mean, if I'm looking at the Mueller investigation, I'm saying he hasn't said anything about key players, including Roger Stone, my son-in-law, and my son. Every time he speaks, he says something new about Russia that maybe the president didn't even know about. And the investigation has a long way to go, for example, on comparing what other people have said with the President of the United States himself has written on a piece of paper in the last couple of weeks. If I'm him, I'm sitting here saying, she's interesting. Mueller's potentially devastating.
You know, if you're the NRA, though, you have to have some questions about how you were played or whether you were willingly played when you were invited to Moscow, and how much money you got from the Russians. And you know, and they're not commenting, obviously, and they haven't commented during this entire story, but that's obviously going to be a big part of what's being investigated.
Just ahead, the new filing by Robert Mueller spotlights a shadowy Russian figure linked to Paul Manafort and allegedly to Russian intelligence tonight. CNN is asking questions about Konstantin Kilimnik, but the Kremlin is clamming up.
An August to remember starts with a December to remember at the Lexus December to Remember sales event.
Lease the 2018 LS500 for $769 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Hey! Yeah? I switched to Geico and got more. More savings on car insurance. They helped with homeowners, too. Okay. Plus, motorcycle, boat, and RV insurance. Geico's got you covered. Like a blanket.
Houston, you seeing this?
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
You wouldn't feel good not knowing the price here. Don't let it happen when you buy your diabetes test strips. With the AccuCheck Guide Simple Pay program, you pay the same low price, all without having to go through insurance. Plus, they come in a spill-resistant vial along with a free meter. Skip the guessing game and focus on your health, not the cost. Make saving simple today at simplepaysaves.com.
It's only a matter of time until your check engine light comes on, or worse yet, your car needs repair. That could mean a big surprise auto repair bill. Those repairs are more expensive than ever. A new engine can be over $5,000. A new transmission over $4,000. That's why it's so important you call CarShield today. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the country.
I liked CarShield because they were reliable, they were affordable, and they were trustworthy.
Well, I think everybody should have CarShield. Once your manufacturer's warranty is expired, there's just no big bills. If we needed repairs, CarShield was there for us.
Now it's your turn to get the peace of mind that comes with having CarShield, so you can worry less about auto repairs. Call or go online right now to get CarShield for yourself. Friendly, knowledgeable, money-saving representatives are available 24 hours a day. So if your car is 20 years old or newer, just tell us the make and model of your car or truck to get an instant plan quote. In a matter of minutes, you can be covered.
I was elated that I had CarShield. I was more than happy.
It's no fun when you have a car and it's broken and you can't pay for it to get it fixed.
Here's how CarShield works. When your car needs repair, you take it to your favorite mechanic or even your dealer, and CarShield gets them paid directly. That's why CarShield is America's #1 auto protection provider.
CarShield is just the best thing to take away the fear that when something is going to go wrong with your car, because it will, and CarShield is going to be there to back you up.
My experience with CarShield is that they absolutely come through every time I need them.
If my car breaks down, I can count on CarShield to cover it for me. CarShield definitely has my back.
Now it's the time to make the smart choice and protect yourself from sky-high auto repair bills. Call now for a free and instant protection plan quote. It's only a matter of time until repairs are needed, and once your car breaks down, it's too late.
Call 1-800-915-9597. That's 1-800-915-9597.
Next, as Michael Cohen faces his sentencing, are federal prosecutors now turning their focus to members of the Trump Organization? A former top Trump executive weighs in on Aaron Burnett out front. Live next.
If your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough, it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works at the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your UC or Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
We're back with the breaking news. Accused Russian spy Maria Butina now cooperating with federal investigators after reaching a plea agreement. It's a major twist on the heels of Robert Mueller's new revelations in the Russia investigation. Among other things, the special counsel says Paul Manafort lied to prosecutors about his contacts with Konstantin Kilimnik, who allegedly has ties to the Russian military intelligence unit accused of U.S. election interference. Our senior international correspondent, Fred Pleitman, is joining us from Moscow right now. Fred, the Kremlin doesn't want to talk about Kilimnik, do they?
Yeah. No, they don't want to talk about him at all. In fact, we asked the spokesman for Vladimir Putin, Wolf, earlier today about this matter, and he said that the Kremlin, quite frankly, is tired of talking about allegations like this one, and quite frankly, doesn't know, as they say, who this person is. But he certainly was an important figure for Paul Manafort, someone who Manafort couldn't have done business with at all in Eastern Europe, and of course someone who's also very interesting to the Mueller investigation, especially when it comes to possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Here's what we learned in Moscow today.
Tonight, the Mueller team keen to speak to this man, Konstantin Kilimnik, a close Russian associate of Paul Manafort with alleged ties to Moscow's intelligence agencies. Mueller says Manafort lied about meeting Kilimnik. In a heavily redacted filing, the special counsel writes, The evidence of the above includes electronic communications, including detailed descriptions, draft, and travel records. After being told of such evidence, Manafort conceded that he and Kilimnik discussed or may have discussed at each meeting. Konstantin Kilimnik is a shadowy figure. This picture that Manafort is also in, one of the few known photos showing him. But Kilimnik was Manafort's right-hand man for years, as they did business with the pro-Russian government in Ukraine, which was overthrown in 2014, and Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, said to be close to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Manafort denies colluding with Russians, but questions continue to swirl around his interactions with Kilimnik. The Mueller team saying Kilimnik was in contact with Russian intelligence services, which were meddling in the 2016 election. For his part, Kilimnik has denied working for Russian intelligence. When asked by CNN Today, Putin's spokesman with a vehement denial.
We are quite tired of following these jaw-dropping investigations. We don't even know these persons mentioned in the investigation, these new names.
In the past, Vladimir Putin has defended President Trump, hoping for better U.S.-Russian relations. But with the Mueller probe heating up and Trump snubbing Putin at the recent G20 summit, further signs Moscow is losing faith.
I believe that our relations, bilateral relations, are somehow kept as a hostage of certain internal political interests of certain political forces inside of the United States of America. And I am afraid that we will be trapped in this position until the next presidential election.
Konstantin Kilimnik has been indicted by the special counsel but remains free, apparently residing around Moscow, safely out of the reach of U.S. law enforcement.
And apparently, Wolf, Kilimnik is still quite important to Paul Manafort because even after Manafort was arrested, the Mueller investigation